Bashar! It's our back to school episode.
Yeah, it's back to school. September.
Back to woo-woo school.
Yes. Are you recording?
Yeah.
Oh. It was very sly. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
We've returned
Yes. Welcome
to another episode
of
As
Woo As
You
Want
Hi,
with
Celine
and
Jeremiah.
I'm making you say my name.
I loved it.
Hi.
Hello. We've returned.
We're back.
We're back.
We wonder if you've missed us.
Maybe a
Missed
little.
us. I've missed us.
Yes, I've missed. I've missed us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like your outfit today. It's kind of like Steve Jobs, but like a hipper version. Do you know what I mean? No, I always wear the black turtleneck. You're wearing like a V-neck and some like light jeans.
It is very Steve Jobs.
I know, it is.
I bought some new t-shirts because I have been wearing the same white t-shirts for like 15 years. No. I needed some new basics.
We all need new basics.
New basics. New energy.
New vibes.
Yeah.
So, we're back.
We're back. And this episode is, well, first, we hope everyone had a wonderful summer.
Yes.
Enjoyed the sun, the warmth,
Hot dogs,
the ocean,
sun hats.
salt,
You know, the things.
sun things,
Sun things.
summer things.
And this episode is going to be about Bashar.
Yes.
And I want to say this because I listened to, I think I've messed it up a few times. Bashar is channeled by not Daryl Hannah, which, my bad. I don't know why I said that. It's Daryl Anka.
Yes.
Right?
Anka.
I was anxious about that.
So, yeah, I don't know why, but a few weeks ago, for whatever reason, I went on Bashar's website and I was looking and saw that Bashar was giving a weekend workshop in Sedona this past weekend, which was the, I think, 14th and 15th of September. And I frantically texted Celine and was like, Bashar's back, Bashar's back.
Yes.
Because you had told me that he had stopped.
I thought he stopped.
Yeah.
But I was wrong, like many things, apparently. Yeah, I thought that he stopped channeling in like 2014. But after doing a little recon work, he has been popping up here and there for the last couple of years.
Interesting. So, but he had kind of taken a break, maybe? Or?
I think one of his like transmissions, as he calls them,
Yeah.
which was in 2012, 13. If I remember correctly, the entities that are Bashar said, you know, we're done. We're going to move on. And I think there is a break, like a year or something, but then it kind of seems to re-up. And I haven't like gotten to that part where he explains his disappearance or coming back or whatever.
Okay, cool. So for those who are listening who have been listening to previous podcasts, Bashar has come up a few times, so you probably know what we're talking about.
If you don't,
But
sorry.
if you don't, you may be a little confused. So, Celine, do you want to give us a little Bashar?
So
101?
Bashar 101 is, as I said before, channeled by this man, Daryl Anka. And Bashar is a group of entities that are hybrid beings that where they like started mixing human genes with alien life forms, specifically the Greys. And then he's in our future timeline, like I think thousands of years in the future, a group of beings called Asasani. And that is essentially Bashar. And his sort of mission in his world is to travel around to different galaxies and planets and find different civilizations and educate them and help them sort of know their own power and evolve and, transmute whatever sort of negative energies they have. And so that's Bashar.
Bashar.
He's a legit alien.
Yeah. So before you turn that dial and turn us off, I know it sounds crazy because the first time you told me about Bashar,
You were like,
I was
get
like,
out.
honestly, I was like, okay, astrology, cool, crystals,
Medium.
cool, but aliens was like a hard one for me.
Aliens is a hard one for everybody. I know how bananas and wacky this sounds.
Yeah, but
Here we go.
the thing is just like my experience with Seth.
Yeah.
When I first heard Bashar, I had an overwhelming feeling of one, comfort,
Same.
expansion, and familiarity. Where
Yeah.
I was like, this just, I don't care how weird it is. The guy wears a Hawaiian shirt.
Ugh, Daryl.
And he channels this being. And, you could say it's not an alien or it's an act, whatever you want to say. The information that is coming is, I think, incredibly valuable.
I do too. I mean, I think that when, you talk about channels, mediums, and all that kind of stuff, there is a lot of resistance towards it because a lot of it can be kind of BS.
Yeah.
And that's fair and valid. And I think you can say, even if Bashar isn't total, whatever it is, right? If it's just Daryl acting, wow, dude, you've got some really good information.
Yeah, you've got really good information, and I don't know, that's quite an act because he's been doing it for years now, and
since I think even the late 80s.
Yeah. And the sessions that at least this weekend sessions, they were 3 hours each.
Yeah.
It's no joke, The guy isn't joking around. And
No.
there are definitely times where he's pulling information where you're like, I don't think this guy knows, the human, Daryl,
yeah.
knows what
No.
he's actually saying,
No, well, apparently from what I know about when you go into a trance state to allow another being to come through you, it's sort of like you're sitting in the background. So you know what's going on, but you're not really aware of the conversation and stuff.
Yeah.
Like a Jane Roberts.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Or an Abraham and Hicks.
Yep.
So, we're really starting off with a bang.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
So welcome back.
Welcome back.
So you can be as woo as you want.
Yeah.
We're gonna get as woo as Bashar
I know, I'm
and
psyched.
aliens. And we ended up live streaming the event at my apartment. We invited some friends over. Melissa and I hosted and just had a really awesome Saturday
really yeah.
Afternoon listening to Bashar first give about a 20-minute or so transmission.
Yep. Which was really cool.
Yes. Do you want to expand on that meditation?
That meditation, the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I loved about it was it's a meditation on, I think, essentially how to neutralize your ego, right? And the idea, the visualization that Bashar led us through was you're in a warehouse, you're alone, it's just you in this box. I'm kind of speeding it up. And then in the box, you kind of place all the everyday thoughts you have. It can be a shape, a color, a texture. And then you just observe the box. You don't have an emotion towards it. They are just there observing. Then you walk out of the building. And then it was almost like what? Like a triad between the higher mind, the ego, and then your feelings, right? When you visualized it.
Yeah. The way he described it was, what I'm doing is I'm getting you more to the halfway point of your
Right.
your soul entity, essentially.
Right. So you can be more fluid in receiving information that you need to know without kind of judging it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when we did it, I loved that.
It was a really cool exercise.
It was cool to feel neutral. And actually, since then, when I've been in annoying situations, I've just tried to be like, you know what? Take a breath, be neutral, like step back from like these like gut reactions. And it's actually kind of been working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that meditation, he then just took questions for like 2 hours, and going to this idea of neutrality. One of the things he said that was a huge takeaway for me was this, the concept of the ego. We always talk about the ego, how, you can be egocentric and live your life from an ego. And obviously there's the negative stigma about ego and being egotistical or whatever, but more just like being a human body, that kind of way of thinking of ego. And in my own personal like journey, I've been dealing with like ego death or ego transformation, and not really sure what it was. And what I really loved about this session was you can't kill your ego because then you're dead.
Sure.
But you can neutralize your ego.
Yes.
And I think that was, for me, a huge key, where instead of kind of, I think a lot of people can be in a negative ego space or in a positive ego space. It's about being in a neutral ego space.
Right.
I think that's what like awareness is, right? Like you're not stigmatizing one way or the other, your experience.
Well, and I also liked in that session, he talked about the ego holds the personality construct.
Right.
So you can't get away from who you are, right? In your personality. So I think that it was really kind of mind-blowing to think of being neutral. I don't know. For some reason, it's just something I've like never really thought about.
Yeah.
Neutralizing kind of your like swinging tendencies.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm not neutral is what it is.
Well, it's funny you said swinging tendencies, because in samatha meditation, which is the meditation that I usually practice, which is one Buddhist meditation, which is a calming meditation.
Okay.
They always talk about the monkey mind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But that's literally what it is.
Yes.
You're swinging from thought to thought.
Thought to thought, motion to motion.
Never stilling yourself. So
Yeah.
I think this was just another exercise in being able to
Be
still
still.
yourself. And
Yeah.
what was cool about it was using, and he was very non-dogmatic about like how things need to look. He recommended like, the box be a clear box so
Right.
that you could see your thoughts inside, and like, but the warehouse could be anything. The idea is that all of this stuff is just symbolic representations to help you with your psyche, with your consciousness.
Yeah. I mean, he also discusses permission slips, right?
Yeah.
Which
That's a huge Bashar thing that I didn't know about until Saturday.
But it's like amazing, right? Every single thing that we do why I truly love it is because you can have any belief system that you want to have that can kind of connect you to your source, to your higher power, to all that is. And that is how you kind of channel that kind of energy, right? And so for me, it's, an alien, I guess.
Yeah.
But
he calls himself a permission slip.
And
yeah.
I love that. Or like, astrology is a permission slip. Religion is a permission slip. All these tools, and I think we've talked about this a lot, there are all these different ideas, but kind of fundamentally, they all kind of have the same concept, which is like empowering yourself, loving yourself, and you are worthy. And however you need to do that, whatever you need to do, if it's, in a good way, not like, being an asshole or something, but.
Right.
So
like
that's
self-flagellation.
Yeah, like not that way.
Hopefully that's run its course. But,
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that was cool. What else was I excited to talk about?
Well, the one of the main themes that I guess this is something that he's been talking about for a few sessions now. And by the way, we'll obviously link Bashar, but he's still doing stuff. So there's actually something happening in Los Angeles.
Go if you're in LA.
Yeah, if you're in LA,
So,
go.
it's wild.
That sounds awesome.
Hopefully he'll come to New York.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But another big theme was the idea that we right now are all transitioning third to fourth dimensionality.
Yeah. He's been talking about that for a really long time. And the third dimension with Bashar is kind of the polarized humans we are, right? Negative, positive, very like dogmatic, right? Linear, concrete, everything is what it is, right? And the fourth dimension, it's kind of where you see through the illusions of what you think is real. So time becomes a little less straight and narrow. You know, you see through your own kind of things that hold you back. And so the fourth density is dimension. I think dimension and density are a different thing.
Oh, are they? I wasn't sure.
I kind of think so.
Okay.
I think
That's
we'll
good to know.
get to the fourth dimension and a density. There's some difference that I'm not totally sure on what it means. Dimension versus density. I think it's a energy frequency, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, ideally, it's sort of the evolution of what human consciousness could be. The
Right.
fourth.
Right.
You don't have to. There's
Yeah.
no, you can stay where you are.
But he says that it's happening.
But it's
It is
happening.
happening,
It's
and-
happening. And I think that if you're not kind of in a, neutral, living your best life, feeling good about yourself, really being intentional with your life, all the stuff around you can really seem terrible. Mm-hmm. And it does, right? Like, how I'm always like, the world is garbage. And you're like, well, Celine, it's not totally. But, so I think that if you don't kind of work on these things and your belief systems and all this stuff, you'll stay kind of in this not so pleasant world.
Yeah. And he talks about how it's not about changing the world. It's about changing you.
Isn't that bananas?
Yeah. It
And
sounds
how,
like a platitude, but he literally says when you change yourself, you actually will exist in a different reality.
Yeah, like everything. Because I think what's interesting to me and like empowering about a lot of these ideas is that we are more malleable and changeable in our thought structures than we actually think we are. And it can change really fast if you really believe it to be. And you're kind of in a different vibration and everything's slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So-
pretty trippy.
It's really trippy.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's very trippy.
So yeah, they're very interesting questioners.
Yes, very lots of different characters.
Yeah.
Some of them were really good.
Some of them were great.
Others were a little wonky. That's fine.
Some were a little wonky.
To be expected. But so that was the one I listened to, and then you listened to the second half the next day.
Yeah, I missed
And that
the
was
beginning.
about future children or something.
Yeah, it was called Children of the Future.
Okay.
And it was basically the idea of he led a meditation, a holotope meditation at the end, which Celine can explain. But it was basically about your future self coming to your present self and kind of comforting you and guiding you and helping you.
Which is what I do in hypnotherapy. So I think that's really interesting. The holotope is kind of looks like a magic eye, and it has sounds and changes in color. And, I'm not sure how that's supposed to work, but you kind of feel like you're in a trance a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely fucked me up. Like when I meditate, I close my eyes. So this was a bit different.
Yeah.
I find it you don't have to close your eyes. I think some people close their eyes, and then other people kind of just let their gaze kind of fall somewhere around 6 feet in front of them, and like relax their eyes. But for me, really removing the visual information is really important to get in touch with the other senses. So this was very different because you're like kind of looking at this, like Celine said, like magic eye circle thing that's like pulsing and like vibrating and changing colors. And
but there's like a center circle in the middle.
There's a center circle, and there's like kind of wobbly music happening, and
wobbly music.
and it's like wow, wow.
It's cool.
And Bashar is kind of giving you instruction. The thing, honestly, the greatest takeaway for me from that was I found myself kind of maybe trying a little too hard, or I found like my thoughts getting stimulated a lot by what Bashar was saying. But the thing that, regardless, kind of made me was my experience was I had no idea how long had passed. Like when it was over, I like looked at Melissa, and it was like 30 minutes later, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, like I really lost track of time.
Cool.
So that was kind of my greatest takeaway. What does that say? Maybe I blacked out. I don't know. But yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you liked it.
Yeah, well, like,
because
Celine came over with a couple of other friends, and on Saturday, and like I turned to her and I was like, this is exactly what I feel like when I read Seth. Like it just felt invigorating. I felt like so much more open and free, and like, how many times you just read shit or look on Instagram and you just feel like, you almost feel like you feel constricted. You feel like you're closing in, and like all this like negativity starts building up. And when I read Seth, or when I listen to Bashar, or someone who's like a wonderful writer, or even really good art or music, that's expansive, right? So like that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the shit that's contracting me anymore. So I totally loved it.
Yeah. And I also think it makes you a little bit more aware of what you're looking at and what you're doing, and like, I was going to watch something on Netflix the other day after we had our Bashar thing, and, I think at some point he talked about, your belief systems and what that's about, and what you're like, what about, it's the reflection, right? Your life is a mirror of what you're doing. And so I was going to watch this, like, weird spy, like, war thing on Netflix.
Oh, with Sacha Baron Cohen. Yeah.
And then I started it, and there was, like, some bombing, and it was, like, really heavy. And I was like, I don't think this is, like, a great thing for me to just, like, give my energy to.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I evolving? Am I growing?
Yeah.
But, like, there's just things that we can be not careless, but it's just really important, I think, or for me now, to realize that the things I give my energy to, even if I'm just reading or I'm watching something, or, my weird neuroses about chewing, I'm just like, maybe you can kind of ease up on that stuff, or like change your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, it also falls into the idea of boundaries, and like we're just, heading out of Virgo season, which is been all about boundaries.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been feeling it really strongly.
You're excelling at boundaries.
Good. Yeah.
You're like a little ice queen. I'm psyched.
I've been working on boundaries, and it's been really good.
It's fun, right?
Yeah. It's really, it's crucial.
Yeah, I know.
You feel supported, you feel like protected, you feel your energy is valued and your time is valued.
Yeah, and no one's mad at you. Do you know what I mean?
No one's mad at you. If they are, like, fuck you.
Oh, you're getting good. But I think a lot of times people are like, well, I don't want to say no. What if I hurt their feeling? And I think people really respect and respond well to a guideline.
I think if anyone protests you're having boundaries, it means that they're probably a psychic vampire.
Yeah, definitely.
Why else would they, right? They're getting
Yeah.
something out of the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's like if someone
If you
freaks
really
out
honor-
with your boundaries,
Yeah.
they're not, the relationship is not a even
Probably
playing
not a
field.
healthy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So, what else did I want to say about this?
well,
I don't know. I think it's worth everybody exploring, checking him out.
I would definitely check him out.
Yeah.
Do you want to share like your first Bashar experience? No.
Yes, I was just thinking of it.
Okay.
Because I can't totally remember. I think that it would probably be driving around in my mom's old station wagon Volvo, and sometimes, I guess, if we would do errands, we would listen to Bashar on tape. So that's my first experience listening to him, and I was like, wow, he's very to the point.
How old are you?
I think I'm like 16, 17.
That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. He's really to the point, and I love that,
Yeah.
kind of like, it's not a harshness, but it's like, it's not a soft landing. He's not putting a cushion under you when,
Yeah.
he's like, look at yourself. What are you doing?
Yeah, he's not coddling you. in a
No,
way.
but it's not totally coming from a place of not like love and support.
No, it's not negative at all. I think it's just like he's seeing things much more clearly.
Yeah.
And so he's just giving it to you very clearly.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to be wishy-washy with this stuff.
No. But yeah. I mean, I don't totally remember when I know I told you that I saw him
Yeah.
in the city like 10 years ago.
Oh, in New York.
In New York,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
In like a very small room. It was weird. I mean, it's just fucking weird. But there's something about his presence that I too find so comforting and so empowering to me. Like,
Yeah.
I feel less scared of all the things that I'm scared of when I'm listening. Because I'm like, oh, I don't like have to be scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Totally. Yeah, I think he definitely inspired that in me, and I just thought it was really interesting how many people, we talked about this a little bit, like how many people who were questioning were one, like some people had ego complexes. I mean,
Most of them did.
like I feel like I have special powers, and it's like
Yeah, it's like,
when
take
you
a seat. Sorry.
yeah, but it's not even that. It's just like, I think when you start to really get woo-woo, maybe when you start out, you're like, whoa, I'm like experiencing these new things. I must be like really special. But then you realize like, no, this is like everyone.
Yeah,
Like,
everybody's special.
Everyone's special. And the whole idea is like, you're just tapping into something greater.
Yeah,
Maybe some people aren't, but that doesn't mean that they're not also
special.
special and
Yeah.
have that ability as well.
Yeah, a lot of those. Yeah. I mean, it was just like a little next level. Because
Yeah.
the questions are so far out. Like, it's like, I feel like I'm tapping into my, Palladian energy. And what is that? And you're like, oh, God. But continue with, I think your point is really interesting that you're about to make.
The biggest thing for me observing it was, it still seemed like, though a lot of these people were tapping into something greater and obviously were like open to Bashar, there was a sense of a lot of people not owning their own power.
Yes.
And I feel like the whole point about Bashar, like when you listen to him, is like, you are in control.
You know the answer.
Like, you know the answer.
Yeah. Well, I think it's two things. I think a lot of people who listen to Bashar or any kind of like medium are lost, and they're looking to this being or this person channeling as some sort of like God coming and speaking. So they're like, tell me about myself. And you're like, well, okay. And I lost my other thing.
Yeah.
But I think I also think it's a natural human thing to want to know the secrets about yourself if someone knows them.
Totally. And there were multiple times where people would ask personal, questions.
And he'd be like, I don't care.
Well, he'd either say, I don't care, or I'm not telling you.
Yeah, I love that it's not my place.
It's not my place.
And I was like, you're right.
Right, because we still, as much as we may be transitioning to the fourth dimension, we're still on the third dimension, and there's a reason why certain things aren't revealed to us at the time that we want it to be. And I know that's frustrating, right, for everyone, right? Like, you want to know everything and be everything, but that's just not who we are.
And I think you get the most benefit and the most clarity about who you are when you go to speak to any kind of medium or intuitive person or channel, when you're coming at it from a place of, I don't need you to validate what I'm feeling. I just want some expansion, like what we were talking about before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've definitely been to, mediums or psychics or stuff like that where my intuition has been validated or been confirmed.
Yeah.
And it's felt good because at the time, this is like the flip side. At the time, it was hard for me to connect with my intuition. Mm-hmm. And so I think that one of the greatest things anyone can do for themselves is to be able to tap into your intuition, tap into your knowing self, because you really do know what you need at every moment.
Yeah.
And it's I think the issue is we've been taught to outsource our power and outsource our authority
for centuries
now. I mean, it's such a patriarchal thing, right?
Sure.
And it's such a capitalist thing too. Like, hey, I have the answer. Just give me this amount of money and I will give you the answer. And it's like, no, the answer is inside. It's always been inside. The problem is that it gets crowded out with all this messaging and all this bullshit to the point where you start to not be able to hear.
Right, you're just like lost.
Yeah, and then you become lost, which I feel like a lot of people are. And it's not like their fault because, I've been there too. And also this is not like a linear thing in that, there are days where it is harder to connect. It is harder to tap in.
You have bad days,
you
have good days.
Right. So, but I think a key point with all this is finding a practice, finding a modality, finding whatever it is that you need in order to hear on the inside.
Yeah. I mean, I think the simplest one is meditation.
Yeah.
And that's throughout all major, religions or just sort of practices in our world. Taking the time to sit, listen in, quiet, neutralize yourself. Like, you'll get everything you need. Maybe not immediately, obviously, but it's like we have to recognize our own power.
Yeah. And that's when you start tapping into
a lot of cool shit.
And your own all these other senses.
Yeah. Like, you just know. It was this streaming thing we all did together was like it came at a very good time for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like I've been kind of in like a in between space, trying to move forward but kind of being afraid to, and then I honestly think I've just been waiting for something to happen so that I could feel safe to move forward, right? Like an outside something. And like after having that, viewing session about Bashar, I was like, oh, this is not about anything but me. And like, I'm safe enough and like confident enough to just do it. And like, it was just nice reinforcement.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what it all is, right?
Yeah.
Like, listen on the inside, and like, it's okay if you need external validation's not the right word. It's like motivation or just like I
guess for me
support.
It's like safety.
Yeah.
So it's not like validated, but like I can create the play, I can sort of pull the strings of my own self.
Yeah.
By controlling more of my emotions. Mm-hmm. And that's why that box thing and neutralizing my ego is like I think my ego and I are like we have a very tumultuous relationship.
I think a lot of people
I
do.
know.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. And fear was like, I think, a big part of all that.
Yeah, what are you afraid of?
What are you afraid of? And
Or
to
like
go
what
through the fear.
belief system is underneath everything that is like creating that.
Yeah. I mean, that's, he talks about, he called it the skeleton key, but he basically said, all of this are just beliefs.
Yeah.
And so when you start to realize that beliefs are malleable.
Exactly. And like, what am I doing in my day that is making these beliefs concrete?
Yeah.
I'm redoing every day.
Yeah.
I have to stop watching violent ghost stories. Or true crime. I have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes if you can watch it with the feeling of it just being like entertainment, or
I know.
as long as it's not actually like seeping into your.
It's probably seeping into me.
I guess another
There's
great
like a lot.
metaphor that Bashar used with the ego construct was the image of a diving mask.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So basically, your soul is in the ocean, right? But when you incarnate, it's essentially the like diving mask.
Yep.
And what the diving mask does is it allows you to see things
In that world.
Right? So like it seems clear, but that doesn't mean that is
Real.
Or what you're actually perceiving. And Seth always talks about that too. He says you need to understand that like humans are seeing reality in a distorted fashion.
I know. That's so difficult to like wrap your head around. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's backwards, right? I think we literally
Well, it's like
are,
when
like,
you're
flipped
sleeping,
backwards.
you're like, I'm dreaming and this is my world, my waking world. When I think it's the opposite.
It is the opposite. And
But
Seth,
everything feels so
yeah. Exactly.
concrete.
Exactly.
So that's like what I was talking about once when we were talking about the shadow self and like how it can be fun to sort of, because I think there's this freedom that comes in thinking that I'm wearing a mask and I'm just looking through, and like even though all the experiences are real and can be tragic and traumatic and sad or happy, like I think it sort of just takes the pressure off for me.
Yeah. Well, that's like going to your point about like, scary movies or whatever.
Yes.
I feel like that's one way where you kind of, it's almost empowering to allow yourself
To like
to, like,
watch it and
yeah.
go through it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I did it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To like allow yourself, to feel your shadow self,
Yeah.
or like whatever.
Yeah. I know. That was cool. The mask. What else did he say that was sort of like wild? I don't know if you remember this part when he was like, you've never left spirit.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's another thing. I talked about this like in a podcast a while back, but nothing he's saying is contradicting anything else.
No.
That, like, it's like when he was talking, I was like, Seth talks about that. The whole eternal validity of the soul, the whole thing is about you aren't actually dead and you aren't actually alive. Like you are
your
a
soul is like dreaming.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think that's such a like lovely concept.
Yeah.
Your soul is just dreaming around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's certain like agreements and circumstances and sort of scenarios that it plays out.
Yeah. Another thing that you just reminded me of, he
Yeah.
talks about karma.
Oh yeah. I don't remember. Tell me.
So one of the questioners was asking about karma, and Bashar said karma is essentially when the soul recognizes an imbalance.
Right.
And as soon as the soul makes an effort to address that imbalance, that is the eradication of the karma.
Right. But it has to filter through our minds, our lower minds. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the trip up happens. In some other transmission he did a long time ago, he had this kind of exercise where you you have the bigger picture outcome that you want, and we so much try to figure out the details of how it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. And he was like, the thing is that your human lower mind cannot figure out how that will take place, but the higher mind does. So it's like this lesson that I actually think about a lot in that whole exercise with the box and the neutrality. Like, the more you can just trust, I guess, and be a little bit more neutral, the way that it will play out will be of the highest and work out in a way that was like that's what I want, the unexpectedness of things.
Yeah.
And no expectation. It's very Buddhist.
Yeah. Well, it's I feel like it totally aligns with the Tosha stuff too.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's all again, she uses the term God a lot, but for me, it's interchangeable with higher self,
Yep.
Love, whatever.
Yeah.
Where you trust, and it's about that openness. Because what happens is if you micromanage your life, like you just said,
You're
but your mind can't. It's like not up to. The mind thinks like it's my job to like make this thing occur.
Right.
But it's like, it's actually not.
You have to be the kind of the conduit.
1,000%.
So that was interesting.
Yeah. That's a great observation. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved that. I forget
awesome.
that a lot.
Well, you are a triple Capricorn, so.
I know. Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, we can wrap it up. I mean,
Yeah.
so speaking of Tosha, she was incredibly generous and actually sent me her poetry book because she knew in our last episode when we were talking that I had admitted that was the only book I didn't have of hers. But she sent me the book and said that, if I wanted to read anything to our listeners on the podcast, that she'd be more than happy to have us read something. So I wanted to read, this is a very short poem, but I feel like it does touch upon...
It's very apropos.
What we talked about with our experience with Bashar and just listening on the inside. So this is called Silent Seat. When you finally take your calm and silent seat on the throne of your own heart, everything begins to fall into its proper place because you have.
I mean, spot on.
Yeah. So
I gotta take a seat on my throne.
Yeah. And that's what Bashar talks about. I mean, one of the main themes that he kept returning back to is following your passion.
Yeah.
That attraction, all of,
highest excitement.
Excitement, exactly. What excites you? That is where you need to be. That's where you need to go.
And not having a hard outcome that needs to happen. Like a difference between what you need and what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes what you need isn't totally what you want, but if you follow that, it will get you to the place that, all the things happen in.
Yeah. And the skeleton key for me was with all this, because I feel like sometimes you hear, just follow your passion, and there's an immediate burden on the ego, I need to work really hard at my passion, and I need to quit my job, and it's honestly the thing that has helped me so much and revolutionized my life is what Tosha talks about, which is offering. is, again, this concept of opening. And if you do have a passion for something, if there is something that's attracting you, if there is something that's exciting to you, allow yourself to open to being guided to that path.
Yeah.
Instead of like grasping onto it or like
Yeah.
toiling towards it.
I mean, and I was listening to some other thing over the weekend that Bashar had said, and it was a woman asking about, you know, she wanted to move forward in her career, but like was feeling scared, you know, and he had this really simple question that was like, well, do you feel like if you follow this, you will be supported and you know that you have like a parachute, you can jump and you're going to sail? And she was like, I don't know. And he was like, well, then there's your answer. So don't follow that path, that you kind of like be less rigid on how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of, and that's essentially an offering and an opening, you know, like
Totally.
see how it plays out. Trust that this is going to work out, but it's probably not going to be the way that you think it was going to be.
That's not going to be the way you think.
No.
But that's the fun.
I know, but like, I think it takes a certain amount of time to get to a place where you're like, and it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
You know, like through working on yourself, you know, all these ideas, it's not like you just like wake up and you're like, okay, cool. What's to offer? You know, like you have to do the work.
You do have to do the work.
You got to do the work. Figure out what's holding you in the pattern. What do you believe about yourself?
And work is like, is a tough word because it's not work. It's like,
You kind of have to dive into yourself.
yeah.
And I think, but I
I feel
do.
like what I was gonna say is work is just living, you know.
Yeah, but like figure out why you do certain things. Like, and I think that is a form of work, though.
Yeah.
Why do you have these certain like thoughts? Mm-hmm. It's like self-therapy, which is work. Also, living is work, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's so nice of Tosha to send you.
Yeah, it was really sweet, and it's a wonderful book. It's called Make Me Your Own. You can find it on toshasilver.com. There's just some great poems in there that they're very like Rumi Hafiz-esque, in that kind of like bhakti devotional tradition.
Love it.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
All right.
Well,
we really dove back into that, huh?
yeah, we dove back in.
Yeah.
I'm stoked that we're back in.
Yeah.
Check out Bashar.
Check out Bashar. We'll like link some stuff. Go into it with an open mind.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, if it doesn't resonate with you and you're like, this is weird, cool. That's
and
fine.
To use Bashar's terminology, it's not your permission slip.
Yeah.
You don't have to use that permission slip.
You don't need to use that vibe.
Yeah. And take a moment just to sit in quiet.
Yeah.
And listen on the inside.
Yeah.
Because I know, I think everyone gets bombarded with shit all the time, including here. It's like, check this out, check that out. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the greatest gift you can do for yourself is just sit alone, no distractions, and be in quiet and just let yourself have that experience.
Yeah, or like go outside and sit beneath a tree.
Yeah.
And just hang out for a sec.
Touch a tree.
Hug a tree.
Hug a tree. They're experiencing an amazing shedding right now.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It's fall.
So,
all right.
We love you, and we look forward to the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.